Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien.
Hey, Susan. Happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm happy.
Always, you know.
I'm happy you're here with me.
Oh, yeah.
We have guests that are going to come, and we have Mayor who's on his way right at the door. So we're going to have Mayor Tom Devivo. And we have another wonderful special guest for you as well. So we're going to talk about a lot of great things that are going on at the Capitol, the wonderful things that our Governor Lamont has been doing, the great things that our Mayor Tom Devivo, welcome Tom to the show. We're thrilled that you're here, and thank you so much for being here. Mayor Devivo.
Well, thanks for having me, and welcome the rest of the team here. This is a great show. I'm excited about listening to all the things we're going to talk about tonight.
All right.
A lot of Wyndham things are going on.
Yes, they are. And a lot of those great things that you do, that we all do together, that we do when we coordinate our work here with the state and with the governor. And the governor will be joining us shortly. But right now, we're going to talk a little bit about what you've been doing.
Well, it's school vacation week.
Yeah, so the kids are out there. I saw you a little bit ago with the grandchildren.
Yes, we've been all
riding
over.
the bicycle.
Yes, I've been spending the weekend, the whole week, with riding bikes around with the kids. We had some nieces visiting us for 4 days from Kensington, and so all the grandchildren and nieces are about the same age, and they're playing. Went to the rec center. It was really a great time. I want to thank the rec staff for all the work they've done the past week, helping families navigate these vacation weeks, because it's a challenge. You know, who's gonna watch your kids? They free swim. These hot days, we got to go swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hot too this week.
It was,
right?
yeah. Almost wish that my pool was open.
Well, I'm glad to know, Tom, that you're getting a lot of exercise.
Well, I want to live to be older than you.
You have a tough job, and you have to be in good shape to do the job of mayor. It's not easy being mayor of the town of Wyndham. I tell you, every town. I work in 3 different towns as town attorney, and every town, the people who work for the town hall, the people who are the town officials are working very hard all the time. It's not an easy job, and they work very hard for the people of the town, and I appreciate them.
Yeah, the whole town council kind of works hard for the town. It's all the elected officials, Board of Finance and Planning and Zoning, Board of Education. I think the Board of Education has a harder job than the town council does.
In some ways, absolutely.
Maybe the mayor has a little more of a forward face for the community, and that's what I see. I tell everyone, they say, "What do you really do?" I said, "Well, what do I really do? I'm the cheerleader, right? I'm supporting."
You do whatever doesn't get done.
Pretty much,
right?
And there's a lot. I'm awful busy. I mean, this week, I've been at Eastern. I don't know if we had a economist that works for the Federal Reserve. And he was meeting with some Eastern students, and we talked about housing and affordability and interest rates.
Wow, I wish I'd made it to that, but I've been so busy in appropriations. Tell us about that, Tom. That's wonderful information.
He did a really good job. He's a young guy. He has a PhD in economics.
Yeah.
He says it's like the best job he's ever had. There was no... There was no political discussion. We didn't talk politics. It was all about how does the Fed work.
Oh, good.
And the two things that they want to help make the economy move forward, and they want to have it be affordable at the same time. In many ways, control interest rates, and yet make sure money is available for lending, because businesses need capital to grow, and if they can. So it is a challenge, but he says sometimes I just sit down in my cubicle and we just look at trends across the country, and he's, like what is gas as an average for all 50 states, and take that average and put it together, and gas's energy prices are really high.
Yeah, they are.
But when it was my chance to speak, I spoke about how do families afford, even though Connecticut has an aggressive minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Housing costs have risen. When I bought my first house, interest rates were 18%. Mm-hmm. At the time I closed, they were 19%. There were houses everywhere to buy.
Yes.
Now they're 8%, and people think it's too high. And it's between 7 and 8%, depending upon your credit, right? And so You go to, and there's no houses on the market.
Well, you take a peek at what happened when we bought our house in '79. I don't know when you bought yours, but we had the Federal Reserve Bank. Volcker was the Federal Reserve chair, and the interest rates were right around what you were saying.
Yeah.
But look at the price of the house. I mean, my goodness. I mean, we got our first house for around $32,000. So, and then our second house, 20 years later or so, about 250, but now they're $500,000 or $1 million, and the price of the house, even if the interest rates are low, you still have a problem because the values of the houses have skyrocketed, which are also the problems that we could get into in terms of how the property taxes have changed.
Well,
but I wanted to just ask you this about the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, because that is one of my favorite topics, is to talk a little bit about how the private sector banks run things, and how we have a lot of changes since the 90s in the private sector banking, and how I've been working really hard to try and create a Connecticut state bank, just like the State Bank of North Dakota. And also, I think that would keep a lot of money right here in the state of Connecticut. It would help us with borrowing, because ultimately the money would be paid back. Like North Dakota, every time people borrow from the State Bank of North Dakota, the money, that interest, stays right in North Dakota.
And I'll tell you, you're right. We need that. Now, this gentleman was out of Washington, and I don't really know. I remember we started product stewardship for mattresses. Now, that is a program
I
through
remember
Recycle.
that. Yeah, I voted
that
for it.
is phenomenal. You pay $30 or $28. It might be $30 now, because it has gone up, and that covers the cost of disposal of the mattress when you get rid of it, when you dispose of it. Well, all the money is banked in Canada. I was so opposed. I said, you need to. The one big thing in the law, and the folks at the state, they kind of didn't understand the value of that. They said, well, there's this. It's a Product Stewardship Council, and they're really good, and they're professional. They come out of British Columbia. They have experience. So they have wide experience on how to do it. But, man, wouldn't it be better if the money was kept here, and then it could be lent to people buying houses. But affordability is a challenge, because we had...
Melanie just called back. Okay. We're going to call you back on the landline, okay?
And, but affordability, like... I talked to someone, they were looking at a house last weekend. It was $475,000. It sold for higher than that, and the time they got around to thinking about it, they were unable to buy it. So Connecticut banking is important. This gentleman, he was talking to students about economics and the importance of actually being a economic professor, because it sounds boring, doesn't it? Kind of going.
Oh, no, I think the problem is people try to make it boring, but I think that it's really quite exciting when you stop and think about how everything works. But that's just one of my favorite topics, is public banking, because it's one of the things that we actually did under former Governor Lamont, Malloy, as he helped create the Green Bank, which is a public bank. It's an bank authority, but they started off with a small amount of money, and it's worth several $1 billion now, and it's helping us invest in sustainable issues, which is one of the things.
It's our money, earning money. The Green Bank is phenomenal, actually.
Well, it is.
Since I was in the recycling industry, I'm no longer in it now. I'm just the mayor,
Well, but you did a great job as a recycler. I was a recycler as well.
So it seems like we have the important person calling in. This isn't like Santa, right?
All right. He should be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Governor, how are you? Governor Lamont, good to hear from you.
Hey, Sue. How are you?
Great. Wonderful. We're really thrilled that you could join us on our show. Let's talk about it. And I have Mayor Devivo here.
Hello, Governor. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. This is opportunity we have.
Mayor DeVito, nice to talk to you.
Great.
Yeah. And I also have Dennis O'Brien, my co-host.
Yeah, the Governor.
Dennis.
Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, and of course our wonderful producer, Matt Rupar. Yay. So we're thrilled you're here, and I hear you've been traveling around. So tell us a little bit about your travels.
I was in your neck of the woods all day today, and we started out at the Pomfret Library because we had a played a small role in helping them expand the library to a much bigger meeting room. And the biggest thing we did was went to Dave Kimball, where, they've had sort of a choppy waters for the last 10 years. We got a strong partnership with UConn Health to get some resources in there to make that hospital there for good. It's that important to the community. That was the big thing we wanted to say today. Dave Kimball's here to stay.
Well, we love that, and I love the work that you did working to create Dave Kimball in conjunction with UConn Medical, Waterbury Hospital, and Bristol Hospital. That is going to be a game changer in the long run, I believe, because that is something that is going to be fabulous for healthcare access, and it will really help us look at how we negotiate the network contracts between the hospitals and the insurance industry. So I think it's going to be a great thing, and we did talk about that when we went up to UConn to have a chat with the president there at that point in time. And I just want to say you've done a lot of wonderful things, Governor, and I did want to have us talk a little bit about one of the things that I'm very pleased about, having to do with early childhood ombudsman. And former State Representative Michelle Cook is now the ombudsman for early childhood, and it's the only one in the country. So thank you so much for that, Governor.
I love it. We created the Early Childhood Endowment. We got $300 million in it. We'll be able to put a substantial amount, probably the same amount again in this year. We're going to get to a universal early childhood for everybody earning up to $125,000, no cost. Starting with pre-K for everybody. Every kindergarten teacher I talk to, I can tell that child that comes from a really good pre-K program. And you remember what the Republicans called our early childhood endowment?
What did they say?
They called it a slush fund.
Yeah. That was a very unkind thing to call something that we're going to utilize to help our children in the state of Connecticut do well with education.
As you know, Governor, I served 12 years in the Children's Probate Court here in Willimantic, and I'll tell you, I advocated with mothers and grandmothers and fathers of young children to try to convince them to get into preschool. And I know that kids that get into preschool are ready for school when they go to kindergarten, and if they don't, they end up being behind. So I like the idea of universal preschool. That I think Governor Malloy talked about it. You've been working on it. The fact that it's coming to fruition is wonderful.
Yeah, we can't say enough.
We're getting it done.
Yes, you are.
We added 7,000 slots. We're paying the caregivers more, Dennis. So we're making progress there. And by the way, you want to talk about affordability? You're a young family. You just had your second baby. And this could save you $10,000, $20,000 a year. It's a big deal for young families.
It is a big, big deal. I'll never forget when my grandchildren were going to early childhood, and the cost was the same as tuition for college. It was just amazing. And I just have to say, you picked a wonderful person to be the ombudsman. Former State Representative Michelle Cook is an excellent, hard worker and is really focused on early childhood education for our young people, and always has been since she was at the Capitol.
You know, Governor, because Susan's been in the legislature for a while, I've gotten to know a lot of the legislators. I go to a lot of functions, and sometimes I run into you. And Michelle Cook, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan. I've been a Cardinals fan since I was 7 years old. My dad was a Cardinals fan. Why, I don't know. Probably because the Cardinals were very, very good when he was young. Anyway, Michelle Cook is probably one of only a very few St. Louis Cardinals fans in Connecticut, along with me. In fact, we have seen games together out at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. And I'm so happy that she's very sharp, very good person, hard worker, excellent choice for that position.
Yeah, no, I love Michelle and her husband, Chris. I'm so glad they're so involved. And yeah, that's a great stadium in downtown St. Louis. I mean, it's right there. You can hear people cheering from all parts of the city.
That's right.
You know, it's right near, as you know, it's right in the outfield. You can see the arch. And I don't like heights, but Susan taught me to going up into the arch, and wow, what an enjoyable trip it was. Although I wasn't sad when I came down to to earth.
One of the things that I want to also focus on is thank you for your interest in making sure that we take a peek at how we're funding our education system. And I know that we're still in the process of negotiations, and you are looking at that with the legislature. Tell us a little bit about your vision.
Yeah, so, thanks to you and Michelle and the folks in the legislature, you set out an agenda for the ECS cost-sharing formula, and Susan Weisswitz and I have honored that. We have accelerated that. We've increased funding about $450 million. And the other thing we've done is we've doubled up on special education. That's so tough on a lot of our towns, and I want to find ways we can take care of these kids more locally. So that said, we still have to do more. We have the best education system in the country. We've got to make sure we keep it that way. So we've done two things. One, we've got a reserve fund for affordability, and Susan, you helped me set that up. That's $500 million. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to use a good piece of that to help make a down payment on K-12 and ECS funding for another year. And then we've got our commission that's going to come up with a long-term 7-year strategy. And Susan, one of the things I'm thinking about is maybe the state should take the lead on special education. Maybe that should be more of our responsibility. It's just every town's trying to do their own thing, and it's really tough for the kids and the budget.
I love that, Governor. I love the idea that you are thinking that way, because I think that you're absolutely correct. I think that the special education, the formula is so complicated that a lot of people don't quite understand it. In fact, when I try to explain it to our local Board of Finance, they don't understand how the whole system works. And so for us to simplify the formula, I mean, I'm very, very pleased with our ability this last year to add some of the special education costs to the education cost sharing grant. Very thrilled by that. Your idea is very, very promising for the future of all of our towns and the students that have special needs. Organizing that will be a great plus and a great property tax saver for a whole state. So I appreciate your vision there, Governor, very, very much.
Yeah,
Let's get that done together, Susan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to weigh in on that as well. As you know, Governor, you ran into me in Andover. You visited Andover and made a great impression on the Board of Selectmen there in Andover. I was there in place of Jeff McGuire, the great first selectman they have, who I think you met out in Indianapolis. I'm not sure. But he's the first selectman. And I am also town attorney in Chaplin and also in Eastford, 3 small towns. And, what you both said about people not understanding how the system for special education works is true. And what you're doing in straightening that out and making it, simplifying it and providing more resources is a great, great, great thing to have happen to the towns here out here in Eastern Connecticut.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was out in Indianapolis. I was cheering on the Yukon Huskies, man. They were amazing. They did us so proud. And we were outgunned 75,000 to 5,000 in terms of that football stadium where everything was taking place. There were a lot of guys there from, certainly the Eleni from Chicago. They just came over in droves for the semifinal match. And then Michigan. But despite that, we all cheered ourselves hoarse for a great team and an amazing effort.
Well, they played a great game in the finals. I don't think I know basketball. I played a lot of basketball in high school when I was younger and beyond that. And I tell you, I don't think I've ever seen a college game where both teams played such incredible defense. Very strong defenses on both sides. UConn left it all out on the court. They did their very best.
Michigan was scoring over 90 points a game until they came to UConn. Then they scored, 68 or something?
Something like that, yeah. It was a low-scoring game, but the defense on both sides was amazing.
Yeah, it was. This is Tom Devivo, but I loved the games. Watching the whole series this year was a lot of fun. I didn't get to go to Indianapolis, of course. I stayed here in Wyndham and watched it from many restaurants,
Tom,
TVs.
Go to one of those games sometime, and it's so cool.
I'm sure
you're walking around downtown Indianapolis, and all of a sudden somebody on one side of the street goes, UConn, Then you have 50 people on the other side of the street go Huskies. It's really a moving day.
I'm sure that today I was up at the Yukon Dairy Bar with my grandchildren, and the 7-year-old walked up to some Yukon girl and said, "Do you play for Yukon? A Yukon basketball player?" And she just said no, but of course, he doesn't know. But, the whole state, I guess, just is enthralled by having those great teams.
Well, we're really lucky about that. I want to just go on a little bit to talk about how we were able to create debt-free community college. This is such a big, big plus for our students and the cost of education. Early college opportunity in our high schools. At Windham High, we have early college opportunity here. We coordinate with Eastern, we coordinate it with Yukon and our community colleges, but also being able to move from that to debt-free community college is a huge, huge saver for our students. It also expands our economy, and I thank you so much for that, Governor.
And it's working. And there was a young state senator named Will Haskell who really took the lead on this some years ago. And we were losing, student population in our community colleges. It's picking back up again. More people are using it, and they're getting the job skills they need, taking a job, and then maybe finishing up community college in the evening if we're getting more of those courses out there. And same thing for Yukon. We're trying to increase the scholarship funding to make sure no kid is denied because they can't afford it.
That's fabulous. And we also have our local community college, Quinebaug Valley, which is now a general community college back here in downtown Willimantic. For a while there, it wasn't, it was just available up in Danielson. Now it's here, and the student population again increased. So it made a huge difference by bringing everybody back here. And we were able to really include more students from Windham High right here at the community college, and have people be able to make that transition too, because we're really a great educational center, and we have students that are able to go from doing early college opportunity. In fact, I had one student tell me he actually got his whole associate's degree at Windham High, and then go from there. If they didn't do that, they can finish up the associate's degree at the community college and then move on to Eastern or Yukon. It's a great opportunity here, and it really makes a huge difference having the community college back here in town.
It does.
Yeah, let's keep going on that. And you and I got the dual enrollment going, so more and more of these kids in high school can take college-level courses.
Yes.
That means if they go into college, they can graduate in less time and less cost.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful thing. And I have to also move on and say a little bit more about the wonderful work you did. I have been receiving a lot of feedback about making sure that access to health care through the Affordable Care Act subsidies that we were able to put together here in Connecticut. And when you look at the data throughout the country, a lot of states lost the people having insurance, but here in Connecticut we were able to actually increase that. So thank you, Governor, for that. That's going to help our providers.
Well, we set aside some money, just in case the Trump cuts hit us, so subsidies would have hit us hard. And Susan, there's some good news. I mean, as you point out, in almost every other state that said, sorry, tough luck, that you just won't be able to afford insurance, and millions dropped off. We have more people on the exchange today than we've ever had before, in part because we're able to maintain those subsidies a little bit longer. Makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference. I mean, where I go, when I meet with people, I have met so many people that really love the idea of what we've done here, and that the only opportunity that they've had to get health insurance has been through these subsidies that we've offered. And the other thing is working to make sure that our SNAP benefits are going to be, we have proposed legislation to make sure the people needing food assistance will be able to get food assistance even despite the cuts. And so we're working on that legislation, and I'm really pleased to see that, because not just the cut in the SNAP benefits that has occurred on the federal level, but also before the bill that passed in July 1st, 2025 occurred, DOGE went in and took all the surplus agricultural food that was feeding the food banks. So we lost a huge amount, 400 pounds a day here in Windham. So looking at that subsidy for our SNAP benefits and making sure we can provide more access to food in Connecticut is great.
We're trying our best every week. We get more incoming from Washington, D.C., but we're pushing back and doing our best to take care of our folks in these complicated times. Hey, thank you for having me on the show. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you today, but we had a beautiful day in your neck of the woods.
Well, we're really thrilled, and we just have to say thank you so much for that citation you gave to the Wyndham Tech boys for their basketball championship. I'm going to give you the write-up from the Chronicle because your remarks to the team were really, really treated as great value, and so I thank you for being a supporter of the Wyndham Tech basketball team.
And the citation was read by our own Mayor Devivo. Did a great job, and I'll tell you what, Governor, they printed that citation that you gave the team in the Chronicle verbatim. Every word was in there. The kids were thrilled to get that citation. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I hope you read it with vim and vigor, Mayor. I love it.
I did.
Thank you, guys.
Actually, I turned around and looked at the boys, not the audience. So.
Yes. He did
That's the way to do it.
He did a great job.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Governor Lamont. We really appreciate you, and I hope to have you back on the show. Take care.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thank you so much, Governor.
All right. So long.
Go to a break.
Yeah. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our mayor Tom DeVivo. We will be right back after these messages. Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our very special guest, Mayor Tom DeVivo. So glad to have you here with us.
No, thank you, Susan and Dennis. But I do want to say, I'm not special after having Governor Ned Lamont. Because he is that guy. He knows, but he knows all about the state. I couldn't imagine having his job. It's such a big job, and he does it so well. And he's really out there getting, helping the residents of the town. We talked earlier just about the QVC and the community state colleges, because how many high school kids do the three of us bump into and say, so what are you doing? What are you going to do this summer when you graduate? I don't know. Sign up and go to QVC.
Right.
You're not going to go and they'll take you. You get accepted. They're going to give you a leg up. You can just sign up. And you can learn so much there. But, I push that all the time because it's easy.
A few years ago, my cousin, Michael Miotti, who was a former state senator, was here on the show. And at the time, he was like the deputy commissioner of education.
From New Britain.
Well, he was born there.
For higher education.
Higher education. That's right. For higher education.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I remember saying is, I said, the cost of higher education is really, really increased. And you know what? When you all in the legislature and the governors, and I know Governor Malloy was for this too. I don't know if it happened when originally when Governor Malloy was in there, but when we got those Democratic governors in there, things started to move in the right direction. Governor Malloy and then Governor Lamont, and for a long time we didn't have a Democratic governor. And one of the things that I thought was amazing was when you told me that they were going to have free college at community colleges for kids that qualified. They were under a certain level of income, and the ceiling is pretty high. So a lot of kids are eligible for that. And that was after the ECHO program came in with the kids getting college credit at Wyndham High School. That was amazing because Wyndham High got into that early on.
Well, also, if you're 18 and you're not living at home, it's their income. So if they, if they're not,
you're right.
They're moved out of the house and it's their income. They're not their parents' income, which mom and dad
once they're independent,
might be right. Once they're independent, it's their income. But it's really that's the place. I used to, I do push certain if they seem interested to maybe looking at the military, the services, because that really helped you, Dennis.
Helped me a lot.
Made you an attorney.
I didn't want to go, but it really helped me to grow up.
Correct, but there's some kids that are just kind of like they're not. Yeah, really gonna.
That's right.
Not gonna be successful in that. So,
there's a lot of young males who drift for a while,
and females. All of we're all human. Men and women are human,
Thank
and
you, I agree,
they drift. They drift between 17 and 20, and the community colleges are there. Even if you don't have the income, it's still really affordable.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's like going to. It's like going to Yukon in 1970.
And the economy that there is today in terms of the cost of everything is so much higher than it was when I was 17 or 18.
It is.
I went to UConn for $75 a semester.
I filled my truck up today for $67.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, right.
There you go. It's getting higher all the time.
That's a semester's payment back in 1966 when I started at UConn.
Hey, we needed gas. There wasn't much I could do, right?
Well, yeah.
I had the light was on.
Yeah.
When I started in legal aid in 1972, and for a long time after that, I don't remember representing anybody who was homeless. I don't. We never had homeless people back then until the 80s. It was after Ronald Reagan took over. And then
Are you talking about Willimantic or the time? You're right.
No,
Actually, when you look at the national thing, but
yeah.
Willimantic, we didn't have homeless people, but we did have Bob Rickier and Hotel Hooker, and if you had no place to live, you could sleep in the hallway.
Right.
He had mattresses in the basement you could drag up. If he
that
was
might
full,
have avoided homelessness for
did
some
that
people.
avoid it? And if
I'm sure it did.
and if it was $10 a week, that's what you had. He was letting you stay.
To be honest,
As much as people hated it because but it did keep everybody undercover. There was no
that's good
tents.
to know, Tom, because back in the 70s, when I was a legal aid lawyer, I was focused on housing and income maintenance for programs for the low-income people. And I must say, I never had any problem at all with the hotel. So they must have been running an operation that was helping a lot.
They were.
Well, let me just say something about that, because back then we also had something called we had the town assistance.
Yep.
And
General
people would be able to go for a voucher.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that this person, in fact, I know for a fact that the person that ran the Hotel Hooker got lots and lots of vouchers, to the point when I was on the
True.
council, they were
Okay.
actually getting about $14,000 a month on town vouchers for people that were there for town assistance.
Yeah, Helen
And
Shershak
the-
was running that.
Well,
program.
but you still had to.
then,
Somebody paid. Somebody funded it.
Well,
you know.
I'm just saying.
The state funded it.
The state, and then we would go back to
Then
the
they-
state.
they-
Let me
they
just
killed it.
Then we would go back to the state, and what happened? You had the litigation
Yeah.
that actually was the final, the cementing of the end of it, where the Ganem was
Warren versus
annoyed
Ganem.
that he was not getting the money back from Roland for Bridgeport for people for the town assistance. And so, tell us, Dennis.
Well, Mayor Ganem decided to cut some people off of town assistance. And we sued him. We went all the way to the state Supreme Court. And, we tried to establish a constitutional right to public assistance, which never has existed and still does not. We came within one vote on the state Supreme Court of getting that public assistance put in Connecticut under the Connecticut Constitution as a right, not just a giveaway program, but a right. We lost by one vote. If we had established that, it would have been the first time anywhere in the whole country, maybe the whole world, where there was a constitutional right to public assistance. But we lost by one vote out of 7, justices in the Supreme Court. In fact, we were kidding about it, and we said, "Gee, if we had gotten one more vote, maybe we'd have been on the cover of the Rolling Stone." That song.
Yeah.
Out around that.
I do remember that.
But it was, things got harder.
Things
the
got
poor,
harder. Well, let me just say, things got
let me
harder
just
because
say, she says.
we actually lost money under Clinton, under the Clinton administration, between Clinton and Roland. So it's bipartisan loss for the low-income population. Clinton created something called the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which replaced the aid to families with dependent children in the mid-1990s. After that, women and children started becoming homeless because Roland created the second worst program for families in this country for women and children in this state. Second worst program in the entire
Explain
country.
that, please.
And that is because you were on less than 45% of the federal poverty line, and you, even though if you qualified for that, you would be off in 21 months for life. You would never be able to get any assistance from the state again. Based from the TANF program. And that was the deal that was made that I worked since I was at the Capitol to actually change. We're increasing the amount now. We are actually now up to 36 months But under Clinton, they gave almost 60 months. And so we're still working on that. Massachusetts gives 60 months in a two-part system. And that's what I'm trying to do now. But just getting the change to 36 months has been a big help. And I utilized the fact that those rules were relaxed when we had COVID. And I looked at the data, and then I brought the data to the governor's office and to the commissioner's office. And I said, look, you have all this money coming in. We have $250 million coming into the state a year. Yeah, only $5 million was being given to women and children in these dire circumstances.
That was ARPA?
No, that was TANF.
ARPA.
TANF.
TANF money.
TANF
We're talking
money.
about temporary
No, I
assistance
thought when you
to
said
needy
money
families.
was coming into the state.
It does come into the state. It
During
comes in from
COVID.
the federal. No. You didn't?
TANF
Okay, I'm
comes
speaking-
from to the
I'm
state.
speaking too quickly. So, okay.
You're trying
TANF.
not to keep me from interrupting.
TANF is a temporary assistance for needy families. That is a
She
block
can't do that.
grant. A block grant. And so, but before, when aid to families with dependent children was in vogue, it was called an entitlement program. So all the person would do is go and apply for it, and then the state would have the money and get reimbursed from the federal government that way. Once they turned it into a block grant, that way, the state could use it for whatever it wanted. So instead of giving it to the women and children, it paid for administrative costs. It paid for all kinds of things. In fact, just in the last month, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about how the temporary assistance for needy families has been a slush fund for the states all throughout the country, and they don't pay for the women and children and the families like it used to. It's actually being utilized by states all over the country to pay for other things. Now, it may go in our state for housing, and it may go for department. A lot of the strange things that have happened with TANF is that instead of giving the women and children the money when they need it, they let them become homeless, and then they put them in the Department of Children and Families. So now we have them at DCF being supervised until they can find a way into a job and stability. But for them to actually create homelessness and then say, oh, you're homeless, you got to go to the Department of Children and Families because you're homeless, and spend all that money that way, it doesn't make any sense when they are not being abusive. They're just poor.
Well, block grant programs are
Bad.
not good.
No.
Because I remember when they started the community development block grant programs back in the late 60s and early 70s when we were in legal aid, and we learned that there were towns all over the country that were taking the block grant money, which no strings attached. They didn't have to give it, nobody had a right to it. They were spending it on refurbishing golf courses and swimming pools.
Yes.
Instead of making sure that needy people got the benefit of it.
But that has changed because now
it changed after a while.
But then we used to use it in Wyndham. That was never done in Wyndham, and
Right.
people still think that you can use it to take private buildings and fix up the storefronts, put new glass in the windows. There are grants and loans available for that, but the community development block grants, since I've become mayor, every dime of that has gone to public housing.
Housing, yeah.
I met Kim,
Yes.
had it, and I spoke about it once. I understood it. Because it was what we were doing with it didn't work.
That's a good
in the
point,
past.
Tom.
We would lend it to elderly people to fix up a roof in their house, and that's a great opportunity if they can't afford to fix a roof in their house.
Right.
But then they get a second mortgage, and and the town is like third on the lien, and they pass
Yeah.
away, and we get nothing. This way, we're getting quality housing. I mean, look at the work they're doing in our neighborhood near Hope Street, right?
Yeah, Terry Court.
Terry Court.
Yeah.
But that's not Hope Street down there.
Yeah, that's
Terry,
Hope Street. That's
That's
called
Poets
Terry Court.
Court.
That whole
Terry
area.
Court, the whole area is Terry Court.
Poets
Yeah,
Court.
yeah. Poets Court, yeah. But in the back, they tore down 4 houses that just, they were built cheaply. And right after World War II, they weren't, they're not prizes. And then they
They fixed them up really
but
nice.
they had a lot of people living in them from the end of World War II until the
Exactly.
2000s. Things were worn out. They just demoed them. They're building 4 brand new duplexes. And no one's building duplexes like that in any
No, they're
project
nice.
anywhere. And we're funding. And Wyndham residents have worked together. And we've taken some heat from the downtown businesses because they want the money for storefronts.
Everybody wants the
But
money.
I don't even know if you can get it anymore for that because that's
I don't
not.
think so.
But it really should go to help public housing be public housing that people want to live in.
It's basically a housing program.
It
For
is.
that reason, actually Wyndham handled it pretty well at the beginning. I was a member of this that's how I got started in politics. I got appointed to this advisory board that was advisory to the Community Development Agency, and that was after Betty Lou Williams left. There was a guy named Jack Conlon who was in charge of the agency, and they were using the money fairly wisely. And one of the things they used the money on, you could use it on a fire department, because fire departments protect housing. And so I think half of the police fire complex that we have, and still today, on Meadow Street, was paid for, or a good percentage of it was paid for by community development money. That was a great investment for the town.
Sure was.
We all know how important the fire departments are.
It's
And
funny,
the police department.
not to mention how old this gentleman is, but but this year we're
You beat him.
in
Okay,
the
I'm not
capital
ashamed.
in the capital budget though this year. If you're thinking about the budget coming up in
I
the
know.
capital budget, we're replacing the HVAC heating and air conditioning system, the ductwork they put in back then, which was state of the art,
Back
was
then.
fiberglass.
In the
It was not made out of like today. I didn't even know they ever did that. But it was common in the 70s. I
Yeah.
understand, because it was cheaper than metal.
Sure.
So now we're going to replace all that, put in newer units. We're going to be replacing the generator we have an emergency operations center. The generator is 50 years old, and I want to congratulate the team at the Willimantic Fire Department and the police side. They told me that there's a book. That thing has been serviced quarterly for 51 years. It's not broken today, but it's 51 years old. You
That's
have
old.
a giant emergency, and we need that. We've lost, the grid has gone down, and it has to run for a month or 2 or 3 weeks. Your emergency, your 911 system has to run. The police department, we need to upgrade that. So that's in the capital budget.
I as a member of the Taxing District Board of Directors, when I heard that news, I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled to know that the town council had voted to put that kind of funding into the police fire complex, which the town owns.
Yeah.
And I'm delighted.
Well-
I think the fire department, the chiefs, and I haven't seen the chief of police lately, but anyway, the not in the past week or so, but the fire chief and his deputy chief are delighted. They're delighted with that move by the town council, and you deserve to be, praised to the high heavens for that. That's a
Well,
great
thank you. We
move.
didn't. We did skip a few
I hope
things.
the Board of Finance
Well-
keeps it in there.
They will. I'm sure that they will, because it's recognized as needed to be done, and we didn't put everything asked. I mean, there's
No,
the
that's a lot,
windows.
though.
Well, there's windows. You walk by the building, the windows are covered with plastic, and they're broken, and regardless. So we have put that money, but we're not repointing the steps. There's going to be some stuff,
We're
but
doing
we
the
can
right
do that
thing.
next year. You start
You're doing the highest
Yeah.
priority thing.
the highest priority stuff, because if you got to upgrade HVAC system, your employees, and they are employees from
Healthy.
they have healthy air,
That's
Right.
right.
and
They need that.
they need healthy
We
air
all
inside the
need
building.
that. Yeah.
Specifically, even dispatch workers, though, they don't get to go outside. Police and fire are outside, but the administration folks are inside
All the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
And then also, though, it will be cheaper to operate. The new systems are so much more efficient than
Yeah.
they were in the 70s.
Right.
No, in fact, in the 70s, did anyone even care about the cost of electricity? No,
Not much.
not much.
Not like today.
Not like today. Street lights were cheap, and compared to today, I guess the money was cheaper because wages were low. But
Anyway, I'm delighted. I was really pleasantly surprised to hear that.
yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
Good job.
yeah, we have, and on top of that, we did that. We also support a few other items in town. We're one of the dump trucks needs to be replaced because they're made out of steel, and we put salt in them during the winter, right? So, it's a '97, and
Yeah.
so there's a couple of things like that you have to stay on top of for your public works after a bad winter like this.
Well, I'm glad you brought
But
this
the
up.
budget is. We had a great meeting on Tuesday,
Good.
Dennis. A
Glad to
great
hear
meeting.
it.
Our first half of these working meetings really.
You were at the
library.
Library, yeah.
You know, at first I was really worried about it, but you know, we weren't on the same page. We were a different phase of our life. But Jean Dismay was the first selectman. She used to want the Board of Selectmen meetings to be more open to the community, where community members could talk throughout it. That didn't really work well. But at a working meeting,
not in a town this size.
But at a working meeting, we're letting people speak up,
that's great.
It's more of a task for me to manage
hard,
it.
Yeah.
It's because if you have a council member who wants to speak and you've been there now for 90 minutes, and yet you've got a public person that's hogging the time, so you kind of call them, all right, which I thank you, but now it's time. But everyone's been polite. It's I'm learning because it's easy. It's harder to run it, but it's much more of a learning experience for myself.
Well, these are tough times, and we need people to
speak up.
We need people to be to get along. We need people to be respectful to each other, and I'm glad to hear that that's working well, because that could be bad. That could be hard.
All right. Well,
we're
winding down.
So everything I learned about running a meeting from Susan Johnson.
Well, that's very kind. But anyway,
Susan runs our meetings at home too.
We are.
Yeah, I've heard.
Speaking of running a meeting, we're winding down to our last minute, and we have our guest Tom DeVivo. Why don't you give us a few last words for the show?
Well, next Monday we're having our budget public hearing on the 20th. I want people to come out to it and talk and listen. Support our budget. Support our community. The budget was put together with hours and hours of work on the town council and the Board of Finance and the Board of Education. These are tough budgets. You need to hear the story, and you need to know that we're not just cutting free fill, but I want you to come out to it and vote on May 12th. Will be referendum day.
Referendum for everybody, everything.
All right. Well, you got to come out and vote, and go and listen to all about how it works, because one thing that's so important when you vote is understanding all the things you're voting about. So this is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien. Our very special guest this evening is our Governor Lamont and our good Mayor Tom DeVivo. So thank you for listening, and tune in next week for another great show.
A couple of strong leaders.